Last topic of accounts book writing is the finalization. Let us see how to finalize these accounts now. To finalize the account, the first entry is an outstanding. You have to find out the list of all the expenses which are outstanding, which will go to the next year. This is not which is not payable for this year, but it will be payable in the next year. Okay, for example, we can say one is what salary statement. This all this outstanding, assume that this salary statement is of March, but this all this PF, ESI and everything which is payable in the next year. So all this you have to pass this entry as a journal entry on the 31st of March. Okay, so how to pass those entries in journal? So I'll go to the journal entry, journal on 31st of March. This is the first entry. Okay, so here you have to enter. So first is from salary statement, that is ESI payable. So ESI account debit, ESI employee. This entry we have done already. Employee ESI, employee ESI account date should be remember 31st of March. So employee ESI 15/6/32, 15/6/32, credit what? ESI employee payable. Similarly, employer ESI employer ESI employer, that is first you have to put indirect expenses, remember. Okay, and second is payable, ESI payable employer is this, that is 2,534 and credit will be ESI payable. This is all provisions. Okay, so this is the way. Even TDS also, PF also, employer and employee PF you have to put, and TDS also. TDS on salary account debit, TDS on salary account debit, TDS on salary, TDS on salary, indirect expenses. Okay, that is, this is the net salary. You have to take it from here. Assume that this is say 50,000. I'm just entering, we already not calculated here. 50,000. So employees TDS on salary is this 3833. TDS on salary 3833, credit what? TDS on salary payable. Okay, this becomes a provisions. Similarly, this PF also, ESI, and even net salary also, salary payable, salary account debit, that is 50,000, and this is salary what? Payable. Salary is an indirect expenses, this payable. Suppose even this is relating to your salary statement. Suppose you are paying rent also. This every month you are paying the rent. Rent of this month will be paid, and assume that the rent you are paying, say 40,000 rent you are paying. Okay, this March rent will be payable in the next year, but you have to show this year on 31st of March. Rent account debit, it's already there. Rent account debit, how much is payable? 40,000, credit rent payable. Okay, similarly audit fee, remember this is very important. This is fee. Basically the CA is doing audit on 31st of March, but the bills we will be receiving from CA after 31st of March. But in March we have to, suppose the CA is charging 1 lakh as an audit fee. Okay, so because this is the audit of 31st of March, remember, of the last year, but this amount which we will be paying what? Next year, but this year we have to show as an audit. So you can show here, say audit fee, audit fees, this is indirect expenses 1 lakh, credit audit fees payable, provision. Okay, okay, like that. Similarly, suppose there is okay, this is the one entry what you have to do on 31st of March. Similarly, there are other entries also. I'll explain you. This is one outstanding entry what I have explained you. Remember, you have to collect all outstanding whatever is paid. Suppose a telephone bill is there, pass the entry telephone bill account debit to outstanding telephone bill, or a telephone bill payable, electricity bill account debit to electricity bill payable, or a outstanding electricity bill. One is a expense account, second is a provision. Okay, so this is the first entry you have to do as a finalization of account. Second is a credit balance and debit balances. I'll explain you about debit balance, credit balance of debtors in balance sheet, and a debit balance of debtors in balance sheet. Now sometime if you go to the balance sheet here, if I go to the balance sheet, sometime you will find in debtors, see all the balances, whenever it's a debtor, remember, all the balances should come on debit side. All the balances should display on the debit side. That's why it is called debtors. In some account, if it is shown on the credit side, this side, that means those amount are paid in advance to the debtors, remember. Now I'll just show you one entry. Suppose the advance is paid to someone. I'll go to the payment entry, or suppose I received the advance from someone. Okay, now suppose I'm selling the computer and all. Suppose I don't have a computer right now. So customer is ordering a particular item, but that item is not available with me. So I'm requesting him to pay some advance. I will give the item after 5-6 days. So I didn't sell the goods, but I'm receiving the money in advance from that party. That is called advance received. So you can put here, whenever you are receiving the advance from the party, you create a debtor here. Or see, suppose I received advance from Mr. John. Say Mr. John, say dice. I received as this is sundry data. Okay, say about 10,000 I received in advance from Mr. John Dice, and debit what? State Bank of India. Our bank account, remember. Okay. So I received in advance from John Dice. At that time, if I see the balance sheet, and in the debtor side, the John Dice will show on the credit side, because I have received in advance. Now tomorrow, suppose I sold the goods to John Dice, I'll pass what? Sales transaction. Debit what? Say John Dice sales, say 12%, say about 15,000. Output CGST, output SGST. 10,000 I have received in advance. Now if I see the balance sheet, now of John Dice and the data, it will show me, see, John Dice, there is a John Dice. Now see, 6,800 is we have to receive from John. See, if I'll press enter here, I'll press enter. See, we have received in 10,000 from the John Dice, and the goods are sold what? Of what? 15,000 so and so. We have received this in advance. So how much we have to total receive from the this John Dice? 6,800 is we have to receive from John Dice. Okay. What I mean to say is, whenever we are receiving in advance from the party, you pass what? Received entry, and when the goods are sold to the party, you pass sales entry for the party. Okay. Now at the end of the financial year, suppose I have received some advance from the party. All these are advance. Say 80,000. Anthony Fernandez, and then there is Mahesh Kamath. Anthony Fernandez 89,600, Mahesh Kamath 61,564. Okay, so at the end of the financial year, I'll pass the entry. Okay, journal entry, say 31st of March. Okay, all the debit, I'll say all the credit balances of the data, I'll say debit. So Anthony Fernandez. So that is 89,600. Okay, and again I'll say debit. What is that? Mahesh or something. Mahesh Kamath 61,564. Okay, and this is what you have to put this under. You can create the data, debit the data, and credit advance from data as a current liability. So I'll go to the Excel. Okay, and here advance from data, current liability. Remember, this is very, very important. Okay, so this is one entry. See, vice versa in the creditor also. Actually, in the creditors, it should show credit balance. And if it is in the creditor shows the debit balance, I'll go to the balance sheet and see Now see, in the balance sheet all will be a debit balance. There is no credit balance, because credit balance, whatever credit side it shows the party in balance in the journal entry I debited them, and credit will be advance from debtors as a current liability. Similarly for sundry creditors, if the creditor shows the debit balance, when the creditor will show the debit balance, if suppose we paid something to the creditor in advance. Now suppose I paid rupees say 15,000 in advance to Mr. say Mr. Peter Fernandez, and here advance say Peter Fernandez. So sundry what creditor, I paid rupees 15,000 to Peter, and from State Bank of India or a cash, whatever. Okay, State Bank of India. So, okay, now see, if I see the creditor here, see the credit balance will show credit balance. Remember, when the creditor shows the debit balance, that means either that entry is a wrong entry or it is paid in advance. Remember, vice versa the debtor, if the debtor shows the credit balance, that means either that entry is a wrong or it is received in advance. Here it is paid in advance, rupees 15,000. When it is paid in advance, you have to debit what? Prepaid to supplier. I'll give this entry in writing. So when at the end of the financial year, if the creditor shows the debit balance, so you have to pass the journal entry. Remember, all the dates are on 31st of March. So 31st of March, okay, prepaid to supplier under what? Current asset. Remember, current asset, that is say for example say total how much, 15,000 it was, 15,000, and credit what? That party Peter Fernandez. That's it. Okay, if some other parties are there, you have to add all those party credit from all the parties. Okay, so now if I go to the balance sheet, now it will show what? All the creditors will show credit balance. There is no debit balance for the creditors. Okay, so this is what? Second entry what you have to learn. So first entry is outstanding, second entry is a this adjustment of your debtors and creditors from the balance sheet. Okay.